Hey everyone, it's SuperHappyJim here, back with another Steam Deck optimization video. Today we have Ghost of Tsushima, which is a game that I personally have been waiting to release on PC for a while, so I'm very excited about this. But regardless, let's just jump into the graphics settings. So we're actually going to start in our display settings. Now, this game does have kind of a weird brightness problem, it seems. I am on my OLED Steam Deck. I do not have my standard one anymore, so I cannot confirm exactly how this is on the standard Steam Deck. But I have heard that the game is too dark, but simply upping the brightness to 100 does the trick. On the OLED, I've found that about 70 is where I want it, especially because the game menus are so bright. Upping the brightness of the game just a little bit allows you to have your overall brightness a little bit lower. Therefore, the menus are not quite as glaringly bright. There's a dramatic contrast option. I have it off. You can toggle it on if you like it. So I'm going to assume most people are going to want to play this game at 40 FPS. So for our upscale method, we're going to leave it on AMD FSR 3. We're going to turn off our dynamic resolution scaling. I personally like to just select something myself instead of the game changing it for me. Feels more consistent. And we're going to leave the upscale quality on quality. I like that you can just press Y to switch right over to the graphics options. I kind of find the graphics menu of this game a little strange overall, just because settings don't quite affect performance exactly how I would expect compared to other games. A lot of these settings make very, very small changes, even the ones that are generally a bit heavier. For motion blur strength, I imagine a lot of people just like to go to straight 0, but I actually like the motion blur implementation in this game, and I'm going to leave it at 30. For field of view, I put it up to 3, just because this is a handheld and you hold it very close to your face as opposed to on your TV. I like just increasing the FOV a little bit. Texture quality we can put on very high. Texture filtering we can put on very high. Shadow quality we're going to want to change to low. You can see that it makes a bit of a difference to the visuals, but it makes a even bigger difference to our frame rate. So we're going to leave that on low. Level of detail. This scene doesn't show it off too much, but this does actually make a pretty big difference. Going to leave that on medium. Same with terrain detail. This is another one that is not too heavy of a setting, and I think the experience is improved from medium. Volumetric fog, going to put on low. It doesn't make too much of a difference visually, but it definitely affects the frame rate. Depth of field seems to really only be in cutscenes and doesn't seem to make too much of a difference on our actual frame rate, so we'll set it to very high. It is important to mention that the cutscenes in this game are pretty heavy on the system, and the intro sequence of the game overall is a bit heavy. So unless you're trying to optimize your settings specifically for cutscenes, there will be some dips here and there. There's also going to be some dips here and there in some of the busier sections of the game. So unless you just want to toss everything on low and 30 frames per second, you will have some dips here and there. I think that's going to be pretty typical of AAA games going forward on the Steam Deck. Screen space reflections, we'll leave it low. Screen space shadows, we'll leave it low. Ambient occlusion is another one that I find does not make a super large graphical difference, which is surprising, and also doesn't affect frame rate too much, which is also surprising. So apart from XEGTAO, HBAO Plus, SSAO quality, and SSAO performance don't seem to make too much of a difference, either visually or with performance. So let's leave it on performance, maybe save a couple frames here and there. Bloom, I like leaving that on. Vignette, I like leaving that on. Water caustics, we'll leave that on. Something else to mention with the FSR settings, this is another one that maybe doesn't affect frame rate as much as you'd think. Apart from going to like ultra performance or something, I really feel like all of these kind of keep your frame rate right around between 40 to 50. Maybe closer to 50 on ultra performance, closer to 40 on quality. So might as well just leave it on quality. And then if you just cannot stand FSR, which I do understand, this game is playable at a mostly 30 FPS. There's some places I ran through where the game was sitting around 28 frames per second. So if you turn off upscaling Anti-aliasing will default to FSR 3, and I think this is the best option for this game. It looks very good. You'll just want to pop over to the graphics settings and put level of detail to low and terrain detail to low. Like I said before, these do have an effect on the overall visuals of the game, but I think it's a decent trade-off, and this is a very pretty way to play this game. I would maybe put motion blur up to 50, if you don't hate it. I do think it looks pretty good in this game. I also want to mention for the controls, I prefer a more like Dark Souls layout, so I'll show you what I changed here. If you want to just search for my layout, you can search for GOT space SHJ space Souls, but it's also a pretty quick edit. I put quick fire weapons on X, fire on Y, just because I had nowhere else to put fire. You'll see why I did that in a second. Quick attack is on R1. If you're curious for my back grips, I always put run on R4, put jump on L4, crouch on R5, and then some sort of optional button I don't like hitting, normally on L5. I do heavy attack on R2, but then you lose the ability to fire your bow on R2. So what I did was create a mode shift. You just go to the drop down right here, and then create a mode shift. And for this mode shift, we're going to set fire. What this does is you can then choose a mode shift button. We will want to do left trigger full pull. So what that means is when we fully pull the left trigger, our right trigger becomes fire instead of heavy attack. Just makes it really simple. Another important thing to mention for the controls is, say you want to make your A button dash for whatever reason. You would want to come here under game actions and choose dash. If you went to gamepad and set B, the game gets confused for some reason, and it'll mess with your controls, maybe make the game non-responsive. So you'll want to keep it to these default game actions. But that'll be it from me. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to this channel if you subscribed it, I guess. And I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.